Good morning.
Morning.
All right, we have a special guest with us today. We'll start with the regular introductions and then we'll save the best for last. Guys, good morning. This is Today in Travel. I'm Jason Poole, travel advisor with Cruise Planners. Love talking all things travel. Joining me most of the time, as usually,
Usually.
Miss Haley. How are you? Introduce yourself to those of us who are watching for the first time.
Yes, if you've never been here, my name is Haley. I own Hospitality with a Flair, which is a hotel sales support company working with all brands, boutiques, and independents all across North America. And I have a travel blog because I hate having free time traveling the world, usually with this guy below me. And we have a guest today, Jason.
We do. Guys, we are joined by Tracy from Viking. So, Tracy,
Hi.
introduce yourself. How long have you been with Viking? How long have you been in the travel industry? And what do you do at Viking?
Okay, so thanks for having me. I have been in the industry for 23 years. I started out, I love to tell the story that I sat my parents down and said, "Hey, guess what I'm going to do with my life?" And planned a dinner and said, "I'm going to be a bingo host on a Carnival cruise ship." And so they were like, "Wow, we're excited, such ambition." But it was a great decision in my life. It was a fun season that led to Viking. So I've been with Viking since 2017, so 7 years. And just BDM with Viking, had a different role previously, but just absolutely love the company, found my place. Jason gives me a hard time about, I've been with a couple different companies. Was with Carnival for quite a while, Royal Caribbean, and now Viking. But this is it. This is where I want to be and where I will stay. So if they keep me, I'm keeping them. So pretty happy here.
That is great. And guys, so a BDM, if you don't know, like her main role is to assist travel advisors in promoting, selling the brand. So if I have questions about Viking, I go right to Tracy, direct contact with the brand.
Right. Business development. And it's a very, it's high level sales. It's business development. And it's, I have a large territory, but it's so rewarding for me to connect with professional travel advisors who really want to scale their business. Not just a travel agent who, picks up the phone and takes a call for, "Hey, what would you like to do?" But really specifically targets branding, kind of their own identity, aligns themselves with Viking. And so that's been, it's been a fun, even though I've been a BDM for other companies, I think this just takes it to the next level because Viking really empowers us to hit those numbers and gives us the tools to make that happen. So
Haley, don't let her fool you. She's at a wine event every other day. Okay. I think she's in it to host the wine event. So don't let her fool you.
I mean, there's that.
See, but I come from that hotel sales life where everybody thinks sales is great. They get to take people out to lunch, and it's such a beautiful thing until numbers come down the line and your butt's on the line.
Exactly. Well, would you like me to expand on that while I'm always at a winery? Jason?
No. It's I'm giving you a hard time. So I think everybody in America has heard of Viking River. You cannot turn on the TV and not hear about Viking River, but you guys somewhat recently changed the name to just Viking Cruises.
Right.
You guys are much more than River now, correct?
Right. And then in 2022, we dropped the word cruises.
Right.
Because it really opens us up to, if you've seen a lot of the recent marketing, it's one Viking. And so, when we found this out, they dropped the word cruises. It really opens us up to what our future looks like, the pre and post options that we have for our guests. We all stood proud that day, like, wow, we're Viking. It stands alone. So it was an exciting day for us to be able.
I will never forget seeing Steve Jobs at a keynote saying, "We are no longer Apple computers. We are just Apple."
Right. Yeah.
And you think there's only a few brands where one word says it all. Apple.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And that's, and that's really, you and I all the time talk about the growth, the exponential success in this industry that Viking has held. And I think it's because we've been able to do that because we've stayed true to who we are. We 27 years ago set out to be a specific brand two things, really: a small ship, intimate small ship experience that focuses solely on connecting our guests to the destination that we take them to. And so we've never deviated from that. So for 27 years, I think it's been easy for us to drop those words because people know who we are. And I jokingly say in presentations, I've done the same presentation for 7 years because we've never had these flashy, oh, now we're trying this, or oh, we have this. We have been true to who we are, and we've only tried to enhance how to enhance that experience versus flashy new things. So it's so impressive. It's strong, it's polished, it's branded, it's Viking. So yeah.
I
I
love
love
it.
It's true.
No,
And you know, people say they say, oh, you glow when you talk about Viking. Well, I don't tell them it's the ring lights. It's just the strength of this brand. It's so sexy. It's so impressive. And so it's what I love to do, educate people and kind of teach them that not only are you growing your business, once you get people on Viking, they're going to sell again. So you've got
when
this.
my clients sell Viking, they don't go anywhere else, which I think makes perfect sense why there's more than just river cruises. So we all know river cruises.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does Viking have in their portfolio?
River cruises, did you say?
Yeah, so we all know river, but you guys
Yes.
have other products.
Yes. So after 20 years of a successful river cruise product, our guests, our company said, you know what? There are people that want to visit these iconic coastal port cities around the world that we can't access on rivers. So what we did was design the ocean vessels, same concept, that small, intimate ship experience, connecting guests to the destination. I love when I see our chairman, Torstein Hagen, talk about it. He said, we brought the focus back to the destination with ocean cruising. So all ocean ships have verandas. So even while we say it's the Nordic sensibility about the design of the brand, that even while you're sailing on the vessel, we've designed them to connect you to the destination. So all veranda staterooms. And so in 2015, that's when we launched their ocean product. And so now we have 11 vessels. We have 10 more on order. They're all identical. We find that our guests love that they can come and really feel like they're coming back home. And you know this as agents, a lot of times people want that same hotel room or they want that same cabin that they've stayed in. And so just everything by design, it just brings them back to that small ship, that intimate family feeling among staff and crew that connects them to the destination. So yeah, we've got 11 ocean ships. And then same thing. It's kind of just like, people travel on these ocean ships, they visit these destinations and they say, hey, now we're interested in some of these more exotic itineraries. And so 2022, we launched the expedition product. We have two of those vessels, same thing, small ship, but connects them to the polar regions. It's just, and then the Mississippi, I can't forget the Mississippi, which is right in my backyard. So same thing, designed to really, it's inspired by connecting people to life along the Mississippi, the history of blues, the history of jazz. The food is the Cajun eggs Benedict for breakfast. You've got the, shrimp and grits. So it's the same Viking experience that people love, but maybe for people that want to stay a little bit closer to home. So people that have traveled with us for over, 20 years, 2 decades, that say, you know what, those flights are getting a little harder for us to go overseas, but we're able to offer the Viking experience closer to home. So it's just, it's incredible what we're doing. And it just shut me up because I know you have more to talk about. I get excited.
I think that's great. So Haley, if you don't mind, I think we should dig into each of those briefly. We'll start with river, right? So
yeah, I want to ask a question first
Sure.
because I'm sorry, Jason, because especially when you want to start with river. So one of the things that I find fascinating, kind of like talking about those destinations and the way you guys design your ships, is I would love to know a little bit more about your Nile River on that beautiful ship. Like that
Yeah. So,
looks incredible.
the beautiful thing when I talk to people about Viking is it's the exact same product and experience, just in a particular destination. So that itinerary, we actually have ships that are custom built, designed for the Nile. And those are all new vessels. We have another one coming out very soon. And we didn't travel to Egypt for a while. We weren't going there, so I think we started traveling again in maybe 2018. So the ships we have there, the vessels are custom designed for that product, smaller, even smaller. But it's the itinerary that we offer is a 12-day. It's round trip Cairo to Cairo. So you stay a few days in Cairo and then you board the ship. We fly you down, you board the ship. And so the cruise on the Nile visits several of the ports. I could talk for hours, the museums, the pyramids, the things that you have the options for. But it's what I consider, and when I explain to people, kind of like a cruise tour type thing. So a portion of it is in the hotel, and then a portion of it is on the river. So incredible experience, but that's a bucket list for me. I've never been able to.
I told you,
Haley and I were talking about the Nile just a day or two ago.
That particular itinerary Viking. I'm like, did you see this ship?
Right.
For a hot minute.
Well, and then also the pre and post options. I know that there's some unrest, and so we're not offering some of the options. But previously, we had Jordan and Jerusalem, Israel. You could do some of the pre and post that I'm hoping will come back, because a lot of times when people invest the flight investment, and I don't mean financially, just the time to get there, they want to do the pre and post. They want to stay longer once they've traveled there. So,
well, I think you bring up a good option when you have areas like that have unrest and whatnot, and something that's kind of outside of, especially in North American travelers, maybe comfort zone.
Right.
It's nice to have that safety and inclusive bubble to hit that bucket list.
Right. Well, and that's, we talked about it prior to going live that I'm going to China in September. And so there's, we're going back this year. It was the first season that we've gone back to China. And so, people ask about that and they say, what are you concerned? Absolutely not, because I'm with Viking, and just the precautions, the relationships that we have. And that's another thing. People ask often, what if something happens? Well, we were the first to stop operations when COVID happened. And so I explained to people, we would never take our guests, our staff, our crew, our vessels into an area that would have any question whatsoever. So, Viking always has our guest safety forefront. So that's, if we're going to a destination, we've determined it as safe, and the relationships we have. And so I'm excited to go to China. I really want to go to Egypt, but there's unfortunately I have to work in between, so I can't.
There's only so many days in the year,
right?
So I'm going to put you in the hot seat here. How many river ships are currently in the fleet and in production?
62.
Okay.
On
river.
On river.
Yes.
62.
Yes.
So guys, I when you do these river cruises, you see Viking everywhere. I love that I was with the different cruise lines on a river cruise. We literally got off the ship, and the ramp we used to get off the ship was Vikings, right? Like a branded ramp, right? Like we were getting off and seeing Viking.
Well, I think Viking's almost it's synonymous with river, to be honest.
It is.
Like when I talk about river cruising, most people are like, "Oh, Viking!" Like it's earned that reputation of just.
We say we're a marketing company that just happens to sell cruises, because we do a very good job at really targeting the demographic and people. I've never met someone who says, I've never heard of that brand.
Right. 100%.
Well, and it's such a positive. I told you I worked for other cruise lines, and people would hear I worked for Carnival, and 9 years of my life with Carnival, and they would say, "Oh, that's awesome." But when they'll say, on a plane, I'll meet someone, they'll say, "What is it you do, or who do you work for?" And I'll say, "Have you heard of Viking?" And they say, "Oh, yes." So it comes with this such a positive brand recognition that I love. Like, yes, it's Viking. So wear my little gold pin everywhere I go.
I love it. So I like what you said earlier about like the demographics. So when Tracy, we talked about this yesterday. Whenever I go to any type of like trade event in Viking speak, some of my favorite things they show on the screen or a slide is what Viking is not. So What is Viking not?
Not. It's a great slide that you're talking about. It says, and I think it paints a picture really of who Viking is based on all those things we're not. The two top things that are always listed: no kids. So our product is 18 plus, and no casinos. And so, really, to dig deeper into that, yes, no, we don't have casinos on board, but I think that speaks to people that have traveled. We're not a revenue generating product. And so I always use that as an example to say, we're not just rolling up the red carpet and sailing away from a destination to get our guests to go and spend money in a casino. We're staying longer in the destinations. We stay overnight. We understand and recognize that night culture is very different than day culture in a city, especially these gorgeous. I mean, this. You said Europe is your Caribbean now, or the Mediterranean, Jason. Like these cities just completely transform at night. It's a different culture. So we don't want to just sail away from that. We want to stay longer. And so we don't, we're not revenue generating. So the other thing that's on the list is, and that kind of speaks to that no casino, is we don't nickel and dime our guests. So I love, in my first experience on Viking, I think that really, it elevated my experience because I felt like it wasn't gimmicky. And every time I turned around, I'm having to pay, $15 for a lobster tail or a specialty restaurant. There's really nothing that you can pay for once you're on board. And so we don't nickel and dime you. There's no lines. There's no inside staterooms. So yeah, it's an impressive slide because it's no casinos, no kids, no umbrella drinks, that we're selling you. No charge on the ocean vessels for the laundry. There's no lines. Oh my goodness. The older I get, the more I'm so impatient. Like, I don't want to wait in the line. So like, no lines, no kids, no casinos. There's no photographers. So every time you turn around or get off the ship, they're not putting a buoy on your head or stopping you at the gangway and saying, to try to sell you a picture. So I think
talk dirty to me.
Right. So it's this elevated experience by the things that we don't do. As much as I love my humble bingo girl roots, there's no bingo, there's no like horse racing, no art auctions, none of that stuff. So we are truly focused, and everything we do revolves around connecting our guests to that piece of the destination that they're interested in. And everybody has a different reason for travel. Some people like the arts, history, religion, politics, whatever it is you're looking for in a destination, that culinary experience. Speaking of wine, Jason, I love the shopping, I love the wine. And so it really just gives our guests this ability. It's this curated experience, but still gives our guests the opportunity to customize their vacation to what it is that they want to learn in a destination. So, I mean, it's just spot on, polished and branded. You recognized it when you were there before. I mean, it's just, you can't be in Europe and not see how impressive Viking is and how branded we are. So recognizable.
I agree. So let pivot to ocean briefly.
Okay.
I have sailed Viking Ocean.
Yes, you have.
I will say Tracy is spot on. When I got off my ship, I think my onboard expense account was $50.
Right.
Like, I think I bought something in the gift shop, and I decided to book transfers on the ship on the last day. Like, I mean, just like next to nothing. Like, it was next to nothing. And and the reason I decided to book transfers is we had to be I had like a 3 a.m. flight home, was worried about taxis. I went to guest services and I was like, hey, are there going to be taxis out front at like 1 a.m.? And he was like, just book the transfer. It's like $25. Like, we'll have you. I mean, and it was the most easy thing. I actually called Haley sitting on the bus.
Like, this is true.
1 a.m. in the morning. I was like, you won't believe how easy this was. Like, they escorted us off 1 a.m. I mean, it was so easy. So Viking Ocean, where do you guys currently sail?
So I explained to guests that our ships are nomadic. So obviously, with a small fleet, we tend to move seasonally. So a lot in the summer, you're going to see our ships in the Med. You of course have a ship in Alaska. We've got some world voyages. So it really is seasonal based on Norway is kind of our roots. Of course, you've got the Viking homelands, most popular itinerary that we have. It's the Scandinavian countries, kind of taps into Norway. You have Into the Midnight Sun. I think those are kind of the original Viking itineraries that really lured people in. So you have those, but like I said, it's seasonal, a lot of Mediterranean in the summer, and you've got more than just 8-day options. So 8 days, 10 days, 12 days, 15 days, up to, even 20 plus days. And so, another thing about Viking is that we, in our effort to scale more destination, most of the time you're leaving from point A and you end up in point B. So it's not this like we're having to circle back to get Barcelona round trip. We do have a few that go back to the same, but most of our itineraries, I don't know the actual percentage, but they start in one destination and end in another. So you could be on one continent, you could be in one country, end in another. And so that gives our guests opportunities to explore a completely different country pre and post. Come earlier. Okay, I'll stop because I could go on.
Yeah, I like
and
that.
What's great about Viking too, pretty much all their itineraries have options for Viking pre or Viking post.
Yeah. Or I mean, multiple options for pre and post. Yeah.
And it's just like, when I landed at the airport in Athens, Viking was there at baggage claim. They were, slapping stickers on us, get in the bus, we'll take you to the terminal an hour away. And that would have been the same experience if I'd come in a couple of days early for a pre-tour. So what all is included in a Viking River or Viking Ocean trip?
So the two things that let me say the two things that aren't included and kind of back from that way. So the one thing that we say is every single port we offer a short excursion. And really this is the highlight of the region. It's going to tap into all those things I listed earlier, the history, the geography, the culture, the language, maybe the local the economics, the a little bit of the culinary experience depending on the itinerary, but it's kind of it appeals to audiences, right? So we know that when you visit a city, you want to know the basic information about a city. There might be a highlight, a cathedral, a castle, or something, but every single port that we visit, you have that excursion included. And so you don't have to take it. It's definitely optional. But most of our guests take advantage of it because it really gives you this overview, this highlight of the particular city that you're visiting. A lot of times it's a walking tour. Sometimes it's a bus tour. What I love about Vikings excursions is even though you're on a river's 190 guests, you go off with about 20 to 25 people. So it's these intimate small groups. We have these speakers. They're called quiet boxes that you wear around your neck. And it's got a little earpiece. So you don't have to stay right next to your tour guide. So it does feel like you're just doing a leisurely stroll in the morning through a city. Often I run in and grab a coffee in a little coffee shop. My husband's like pointing, like, come here. I'm like, I can hear you. I know where you are. I'll be there in a minute. Let me get my coffee.
That was me when we were visiting Troy. I saw
like, I hear you. I know where you are. You're going in the church. Leave me alone. So that's included. Every single port that we visit. What isn't included, and Viking really feels that, and I said it earlier, everybody has a different reason for connecting to it or a desire. Some people want that culinary experience. Some people I love telling the story about, I took my dad to Russia and I wanted to go to the ballet. And I went to the ballet and told him, Dad, guess what? I have tickets to the ballet. And he looked at me and said, I ain't going to ballet. Nothing about that appeals to me. And so broke my heart. I wanted to go see Swan Lake in St. Petersburg. Dad didn't want to go, but it's a true example of not everybody wants the same experience. And so because of that, what we've done is curated these optional excursions that I explain them to be very special interests. So say you want to go to the ballet, say you're more of a foodie and you want to go do a home visit and prepare a meal. You want to go to a winery and learn about how they harvest the grapes and how seasons and the geography close to the river influences the grapes, and try a flight of wine. So if you're not a wino, you don't want to go to the winery. So we've designed, and maybe 5 to 10, sometimes 15 different excursions that you could select that appeals really to your desire to connect with a destination. So those do come with a charge. So that's one thing that you would pay extra for on board. You do have every day the included, and then you could do the optionals. And often people say, could I do both? Absolutely, because we're there longer, sometimes overnight. You could potentially do 3 or 4 in a city. You know, if we're in Vienna for 2 days, I think I did 4 different excursions. So that is one of the things that you would pay. And the other is we include wine, beer, and soft drinks with lunch and dinner. So guests can get, you know, as much as you want. It's not limited. If you want to try, it's usually a house white, a house red from that region that you could just enjoy with dinner. However, if you're someone that likes those, I call them the boutique wines. If you're a bourbon drinker, if you have a specialty cocktail that you want, we have what's called a silver spirits beverage package that it's $25 per person per day.
Dirt cheap.
So inexpensive, so worth it. And you can do anything you want any time of the day. So it's nice to be able to go if you want to get a champagne, go up on deck, observe. Now you could still do a la carte if you just wanted to get a glass of wine before dinner. You could certainly pay for that. But in my opinion, every night the dinner on one side of the menu is regionally inspired, and they always have a recommended cocktail or a recommended wine that would pair well with that particular dinner. And so if you have that drink package, it's just nice to be able to say, I want this entire menu. I'd like the recommended wine. So those are the 2 things that you would potentially upgrade to. We don't want you to wait until you get on board. We'd love for you to do that prior.
You know what? And I'll say, guys, it was worth it. I would walk up to one of the bars in the lobby. The bartender would see me, grab the bottle of Hendrix. He knew what I wanted. Well worth $25 a day.
Yeah. So the bottled water is included. So that's something people ask often. You have a refrigerator in your stateroom. Something that always I get a wow from the crowd is we have a refrigerator in every single stateroom. So we're not going to pat you down at the gangway and run you through security and take your wine and make sure that you don't have it until the end of the cruise. We know that culinary experience is a part of the journey, that journey in a region. So if you're in Germany and you love a good Riesling and you find a Riesling, bring it on board. There's no corkage fee. We'll open it for you in the dining room. You can put it in your refrigerator, have glasses, enjoy it on your veranda. So that's something that people love. So bottled water included. Every night we leave bottles with glasses of water in your stateroom. We want you to stay hydrated. Your Wi-Fi is included. Like you mentioned, the transfers, if you book the Viking Air, your transfers are included. Same thing with the hotel, the pre and post. So really there's not a lot that you would need to pay for. Your bill was probably $50 if you bought maybe a hat or a Viking.
I think I bought, it was like a water bottle and the transfer. Yeah. It wasn't even $100. So. And I will say something else I loved in the room. I loved my little Nespresso machine in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, my doctor may not appreciate how much espresso I had basically on tap in my room.
Yeah.
But it was nice just to have like a little Nespresso.
I explain that to people that you see, I'm still nursing this coffee from this morning. I explain to people that I'm the type of person that has to have the coffee in the room before I speak to anybody, to be able to make it to the coffee in the dining room, to be able to make it to the coffee shop off the ship. So it does help to have that. And even on the rivers, we don't have those on the rivers, but I will go and get the coffee at the station and put it in my fridge because I like cold coffee, and I've got it right here in the cabin in the morning. So it's coffee's important.
Before we transition to expedition, I gotta say I've been on a lot of trips, a lot of cruises, a lot of hotels, and the customer service and the attention to detail on Viking. I've had good customer service. My room attendant, and I casually joke, who needs the decaf Nespresso pods? Like, who needs them? I like the regular. Didn't think anything of it. That night, all the decaf was on. There was a bowl full of the regular, like full strength espresso pods. I mean, didn't even think about it. I wasn't even asking him to change it. And customer service really was top notch.
The stories that I hear are just, and I'll tell you a quick one. I don't know. one of my favorite stories, I sailed in May one year on the Danube and had this incredible waiter, Milan. I loved him. And we sat down, we had just boarded the ship, and they had, I love mozzarella, balsamic, tomatoes, caprese, and they had these little cups. And so I said, I'll absolutely have that. And I was eating it, and I must have been eating it pretty quickly. And I said to my husband, I said, I could eat a bowl of that. It's just my favorite, that balsamic drizzle all over. And so a few minutes later, here comes Milan with 3 of those cups on a tray and puts it down in front of me. And I looked and I said, oh my gosh. I said, did you hear me say that to my husband? Or was I so aggressive in like annihilating that? Did you? And he said, I just have a way. He's like, I'm in this hospitality industry. I know what my guests like. And I was like, wow, that's impressive. And so I kid you not, I was on that same ship in October. I did a travel agent fam. I boarded the ship. I'm sitting there having lunch. And guess what comes around my shoulder?
Unbelievable.
A tray with 12 of those. I'm not joking. And I looked and I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly the stories that people tell me. Yes. And I laughed and I said, I know you all think this is funny, because nobody knew what was going on. But Milan was like, welcome back. I couldn't believe it. And I said, I know you all think this is funny, but I'm going to eat every one of these. And I dumped them into a bowl and just sat and ate mozzarella balls and tomatoes for the next hour. But I said, these are the stories that people come back and tell me about Viking that I never have ever heard with companies previously. Like, people push people out of the way to get to my table at a trade show booth to say, let me tell you about such and such. And it's just, again, this is where I go back to, if that is your focus on the guest experience, and that's been our focus for 27 years, we've only figured out how to do it best. And it's what we focus on. And it's examples I hear week after week after week of what we deliver. And that's the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you go on. People ask me, they say, if there's something that challenges me or I don't have the exact answer, I will say Viking would not be where we are 27 years into this industry if we weren't doing something right by our guests, our staff and crew, our travel advisors. Like, it is just, the proof is in the pudding right here. Numbers say it, the product, the vessels. Anyway, okay, we were moving on.
And there's very few brands that kind of have that to them. I mean, like, I think about the different lines I've cruised on, and like those customer experiences that you're talking about, maybe a handful. And I mean, like, I don't cruise as much as Jason, but I mean, I cruise a good.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Nobody cruises as much as Jason.
No, that is a lie. Does. That is a lie.
But I mean, I'll never forget sitting in my like hospitality 101 when I was working on my degree, like my first class, and my professor telling us that, we get a really unique experience in hospitality because we don't necessarily sell a tangible product, we sell an experience.
Yes.
And that human component is so much of it. You can have beautiful ships, you can have great itineraries, but if you don't have the people that pull that together, you're going to fail if you don't have that.
That's a great point. I just wrote that down because I'm going to use it. It's really, it articulates what I say very well, how, this tangible, you're absolutely right. And I often say that I feel like more than any company that I see out there, we deliver exactly what we promise. It's because we all have the same vision. We all have the same kind of end goal. And we execute that very well. And so it's so consistent. We all know what our goal is, and we deliver that. And I say, everybody that you meet that works for Viking is as excited about the product as I am. So if you can't handle this, you might want to go somewhere else.
So last but not least for today, let's talk about expedition.
Yeah. So
tell me about it. How many ships? Where do you go? What makes Viking different and special in expedition?
So in an expedition, it's the exact same thing. Our guest said, you know what? I think travel is very trendy and sexy. A few years ago, Egypt came back, and then right now, I feel like Iceland is very sexy. Portugal is very sexy. Dubai is starting to pop up as a destination that people want to take advantage of. And so, with Antarctica being one of those destinations, that's kind of that bucket list destination. I think Vikings saw the opportunity to get into that market when it was really kind of hot. And so what we did was just take the product that we know we're extremely do an extremely fine job delivering and move it to the polar regions by designing a vessel specifically for those regions. So all the things that people love and know about Viking, you can expect in Antarctica. However, in addition, we've added the scientists, the polar regions. There, it's still very much about studying, and so we've partnered with all these polar institutes. We have scientists on board. There is a laboratory on board that you can go. You can book hours and go and see what they're studying. We have Expedition Central on board, and they actually launch a weather balloon so you can track. It's the only company that they're actually studying these weather patterns. And so there's this big screen that you can follow the weather patterns, humidity, all these things that you had no idea is a real thing, but it's so intriguing when you watch it. So they do this. They launch the balloon. So you can go Expedition Central. The scientists are there. You can go into the laboratory. You can see what they're studying. You can look in. When we were there, we were looking at they're studying plastics. They're studying, flora, all kinds of things that you get to be involved in while you're there. So it adds this element of, we say that, Viking never positioned themselves as a luxury brand, but we say this is the luxury expedition market, right? Because it's not, we know our guests don't want to, they want to go and make a landing. They want to touch down. They want to take a picture with the penguins. They don't necessarily want to hike an iceberg, pop a tent, sleep with the penguin. They want to come back on board and have a bourbon and go and learn about what they just saw. And so we say that it's this luxury expedition product.
I call it glamping, right? It's glamping.
It's glamping. I don't know that that's Viking branded, but that does, I often say it's kind of bougie, which is not Viking words. But it really is. So our guests can go and at the back of the ship, do yourself a favor and check out this expedition vessel. But it's at the back of the ship. There's this gorgeous auditorium that's it's like this 360-degree view. So, in Antarctica, when you're in these places, only so many people can make a landing at once, but you can be in this theater in the comforts of like the heat and having a glass of champagne or an espresso and watch other guests make a landing. But you're in this auditorium listening to presentations. It's got this huge screen that comes down. So it's completely, it transforms to this viewing room at the back of the ship. And then not to mention, we have all of this equipment that our guests can board and take off. We have the ribs. They're actually SOBs, the special operations boats. You have so many things that guests can take advantage of. The submarine, of course. I could talk expedition for a whole hour.
You just casually said a submarine.
Yeah. A 6-seater submarine that you can go out. So yes, it's really it takes a lot to wow me. And like you said, Haley, you cruise a lot and you see things. When I stepped on board our expedition vessel, I was so impressed. It takes a lot to wow me. And I said, wow, this is Viking. It's very, we have this Scandinavian, it's very light and airy, again, designed to draw the destination in. But it was this spin that it was this kind of a sexy, like masculine. They did such a good job in adding the elements. There's like the wools and the thick leather straps and the rivets and the metals. So it's this Viking feel, but it's got this expedition masculine touch to it. So I walked around that ship like, wow, this is gorgeous. But specially designed for the polar regions. knowing that we can't sail year round in the polar regions, we designed that ship to come over. It's built very narrow. And so that ship is able to come through the Welland Canal. And so in our summer season, we do a Great Lakes itineraries. And so it's just kind of dual purpose, built for the polar regions, but because we can't sail there year round, we're able to offer our guests closer to home itineraries in the Great Lakes. And we have one that's 5. It's called the Great Lakes Collection that hits all 5 Great Lakes. So just really smart in not only the design of the vessel, the experience, and again, I could talk for days. I love how you said next time. So that alludes to that I get to come on the show again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Haley, if there's no more parting thoughts from you.
No, I'm already wanting to go look at that Great Lakes one because, like, I live on a Great Lakes. I'm like, where is this?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I get pictures all the time to my phone that, people are like, look what I saw in Milwaukee, or look what I saw in Toronto,
I was in Alaska and sent you a picture of a ship up in Alaska.
Yeah. I love that people think of me. So
So Tracy, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all things about Viking. Guys, it's a great brand. It once you do it, it sells itself. It's the materials you get in the mail, the luggage tags, the communication, the app, when I checked in for my Viking cruise, it was so easy. I thought I did something wrong.
Yeah, right.
It was like click, done.
Right.
I really thought I did something wrong. It was that easy. It is such a great brand. Tracy, thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate you allowing me to be here.
Awesome. Well, guys, we'll be back next week. I will be in Iceland next week. Hopefully, I can still join you on the show next week, Haley.
No, you're stuck with me.
Okay. Well, she already said goodbye. So
she just did a Jason Irish goodbye.
All right. See you guys later.